Hi there. I am here today with a good friend and colleague of mine, Helen Elizabeth Evans. And Helen is pretty amazing because what she does is she works with business leaders in the making, and she helps you like step into your biggest vision of yourself. And she's also the UK's #1, let me get this right, scientific hand and fingerprint analyst. Now, I actually met Helen in Phoenix before I lived here at an event that we both went to, and it was about my hands. And she's pretty amazing in the way that she can help you look at all parts of yourself and step into that whole leader that you need to be. So thank you for being with me, Helen.
Oh, thank you, Sharon. I'm so honored to be here.
Okay, so what we're talking about, and you guys who are watching this know I'm putting up several videos on coping and embracing the change that we're going through. So what is something that you've seen going on with your clients or in your life, whichever one you want to share right now, that we can talk about with the audience a little bit?
You know, I think the thing that has really jumped out for me most is that we feel as if our center has been taken away. It's like what we're used to, what we are comfortable with. It's like somebody pulled the rug out from underneath us. It's like there's, I find even for myself, and I think I'm fairly self-aware, and I thought I was pretty calm and handling things pretty well, that, you know, I have suddenly been triggered by things that have happened, which normally wouldn't bother me in the least. And so I'm fascinated by, and then that, of course, makes me then feel uncomfortable because I'm going, where did that come from? And I think a lot of us are feeling like that. Do you know what I mean? Where we're thinking, that wasn't me. This doesn't feel like me. And I think that's one of the challenges with change in general, is that we become, it's like we don't know where our safety net is. We don't know.
You know, that's a great point. That's a great point. I mean to step on you there, but what that made me think of is that, you know, we're constantly changing, right? We're constantly evolving. But when it's something as dramatic as this, it's like we're really like, okay, so what is it I'm going to keep and what is it I'm going to let go of, right?
And the other thing that, you know, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and that really kind of highlighted to me that we can choose how we respond to this change. We can either, some of us get obsessed with the detail, you know, the little things that are happening and whether this is right and whether this is wrong. And we kind of sweat the small stuff. And others of us go into the big picture and we kind of go, actually, looking at this from a big picture perspective, you know, this thing that just happened, is it in the big picture of things, is it that big a deal? Can I let it go? You know, we have to notice how we're responding. And I guess the way we respond is indicative of what makes us feel safe, or whether we feel safe or not. So we're having to create our own safety.
Right. You know, I love that, because one of the first things I noticed was, okay, so what was the biggest thing you feared when this happened? Because that'll show you what you're really wanting to work on and heal. This is a major opportunity for healing, for us, for the earth, for the world as a whole. So it's really, so I love that you pointed out, it's like, what is showing up for you?
Exactly. And I, you know, there's a little lesson I also learned that maybe is relevant to share here. And I actually learned this lesson only today. So
you actually what?
I learned this lesson today, and that is that sometimes we can make an assumption that it is our ego that wants something, because our ego is often equated with power, or power is often equated with our ego. So if I want something which feels like, and want is a very powerful kind of word, right? There's strength behind it. So I'm thinking to myself, I want to be heard. So therefore, that feels like an ego thing for a lot of people. And I might use the word ego. Whereas actually, our power is in our higher self, and it may be something that our higher self actually wants. So when we feel this desire for something, to not assume it's the smaller part of you that needs this, but to actually consider the fact that it may be that more enlightened, stronger, more powerful side of yourself that requires what you're actually wanting and needing in the world.
Do you have a way that you discern for yourself whether it's coming from your divine self or your ego?
Do you know what I think? I think that actually you just need to trust yourself. And just as long as you have enough consciousness to step into this desire, maybe the desire might be to speak up in the case of what you think is unfairness, or maybe the desire might be to have somebody show you some appreciation and applause, which a lot of us feel guilty for those desires, or we feel that they're not spiritual.
A part of you.
Sorry?
It's a part of you.
So yeah, it's a part of you, right? But actually, don't be, but what about if you consciously look into them and you kind of go, I don't feel like it's my ego. I don't feel like it's a heaviness. I feel like it's just a simple desire over and above a neediness. I think ego probably is something where there's a heaviness to a desire which relates to ego, which is the less evolved part of yourself. But it's also the part of yourself, to be honest with you, as a human being that keeps you safe. So I don't see the ego as a bad thing, but I do see it as something that needs to be honored. But actually, if there's not a heaviness with it, but the desire is still there, then I believe that is actually your higher self asking for something. And it's okay for you to be powerful. You can be spiritual and still have good boundaries, or still have strong desires. And maybe your higher self says part of your purpose on this planet is to actually receive appreciation and applause. So it's really okay to go out there and ask for it.
So can you give an example of, you use the term heaviness, and I just want to make sure everybody understands what it is you mean by that. Can you give us an example of okay, so let me ask it this way. So can you give an example of when you absolutely 100% know it's your ego, and it really like you and I both know, and we've talked about this, your ego is a part of you as long as you're here. So we're not bashing the ego, right? Mm-hmm. But can you give an example of when there's a heaviness, so that you know that it really doesn't have anything to do with your higher self, your purpose? Not that it matters, but just an example so the audience knows what you're talking about.
Okay, so this is a new learning for me, so I'm not going to tell you that I'm an expert in it in any form or fashion. In fact, I never tell anybody I'm an expert, because I'm constantly learning.
No, of course, we all are.
So all I can do is just share my experience around this. And my experience is that if there are two sides to me. So if I am triggered by something, and right now, let's be honest, change triggers us, feeling unsafe. You get triggered so much more easily. And by triggered, I mean kind of like, somebody says something and you want to, bite them in response, or, somebody says something and makes you want to cry, or somebody says something and you have an emotional reaction to it in some way that is a reaction that possibly you feel you haven't chosen. It's just triggered something.
Oh, like it came out of nowhere. Is that what you mean?
It came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so I think when we are getting triggered, it's the first thing to notice is that you're getting triggered. And sometimes we just respond without consciously being aware that actually, oh my God, this is a trigger for me. So the first thing, once I've recognized I've done that, which often can happen automatically, is just to step back from it and go, hang on a second. Is this coming from, the way that I respond when I'm in my better version of myself is and the version of myself that I feel comfortable with is when I'm imagining myself feeling love towards myself and towards other people. And I don't mean the kind of love where I just accept somebody treating me badly or whatever the case may be, because loving myself wouldn't allow that, right? But I can love the person who may have done something that has triggered me. I can send love to that person and realize it's just, if it's a higher self response, I don't need to put that person down. If it's the ego side of me, then I need to squash them, put them back into the box. I need the reaction that I feel, the heaviness I feel inside myself is probably, for me, it feels like heaviness because I feel it's against my higher good, my higher nature. It feels dark. It feels uncomfortable. Being unpleasant feels uncomfortable to me.
I like using the term icky.
Icky. Yeah, it's an icky feeling. I
just feel icky the way I respond it, right? It just doesn't feel like me. It just, yeah.
It doesn't feel like the person I want to be. It may feel like that, but it may not feel like the person you want to be. And so therefore, to respond that way, I think most of us, when we respond from a place of heaviness or ickiness or whatever the case may be, it's usually auto behavior. But if we take a moment to think, we then go, oh, I don't know how to respond in this situation, but I don't want to respond that way because it feels icky. Right. And you may not have any answers to how you want to respond. But the first thing is it feels icky. And I think that's what I mean by heaviness, is to just have enough consciousness to know, is this who I want to be? Is this
just
how
acknowledge
I want to
it, you know?
Just acknowledge it,
yeah. I've already said something about a second, but you know, one of the things I've learned early on, it's like when something happens, if I start going in the wrong direction, it's like my brain will automatically go, wait a minute, you know, and so that makes me stop and really kind of look at what's going on.
And I think I also want to come back to when we do that auto response thing, and we do respond from an icky way, a way that feels uncomfortable for us, a heavy way, whatever terminology you want to use it, to not then slip into guilt for how badly you behaved or for how you responded. But a true person, a person in their leadership, a person who's actually wants to be a leader in their own lives, will immediately take responsibility and apologize or say, you know, I don't know where that came from, I'm really sorry. The other person's response is irrelevant. What matters is that you are operating from your true higher values, the values that you want to be in alignment with. If you allow that icky response to stay there without an apology, without sorry, let me take responsibility for how I responded, then I think it remains there. But I think you clear it by apologizing. That doesn't mean that I suggest you take responsibility for the person who may have created behavior. Yeah, I mean, you're not, you know, it doesn't mean that the other person wasn't.
I totally get that,
wasn't equally responsible. I do think it's really important to acknowledge that the other person may have had some responsibility, but you're taking responsibility just for your response.
Correct.
And that it would be more appropriate to send love to that person and empathy for the fact that they reacted the way they did. They probably also being triggered. They probably also really feeling on edge right now and crazy. And so they're not responding or acting in their highest self either. Right. So can you forgive other people too for maybe reacting in a way that wasn't in alignment with themselves? I think the big thing that I'm really trying to say here is that let's not judge each other based on our behavior. Because
it doesn't, you know, like just because you act out in a moment, that doesn't define who you are. But when you were saying, one of the things I thought of, and I love this, A Course in Miracles, everybody who knows me knows I'm a Course in Miracles gal. That was the beginning of my spiritual path. But A Course in Miracles teaches you only receive one of two things from anyone. It's either love or it's a call for love. So if you can look at someone acting out as a call for love, then absolutely what you just said, give them love.
And love is often, you know, just saying it was okay for you to be mean. And I don't accept your meanness, but I'm okay with the fact that you were. And I know that it's not who you are. There's very few people in this world who are genuinely mean. The meanness usually comes from a lack of self-love.
Exactly. Well, I mean, bullies, it's like we've all been taught our whole life. If you pay attention to anything they teach about bullies, it's the reason they bully is because they don't feel good about themselves. And so they're trying to make themselves feel important in some way, shape, or form.
You know, by the way, I'm just writing that down because I think it's really good.
Well, I'll give you a copy of the video. So before we go, is there anything else that you would like to share with whoever's watching this on something to pay attention to or a way to cope with and embrace the change that we're going through?
So for me, I need, it starts from the most basic level in order for me to feel safe and feel comfortable. It's almost like you have to create your own safety. So for you, you need to decide what you need in order for you to feel safe. So for me, the first thing I need to do often is something that calms me down. So maybe it's to paint, maybe it's to read, maybe it's to, I don't know, I'm not advocating emotional eating, but you know, if you need to eat a bit of ice cream, go for it and eat your ice cream.
If you need a carb, eat a carb.
Yeah, just right now, don't feel guilty about doing what you need to do to get yourself recentered and calmed down in order to respond in a more healthy way.
Perfect.
My next thing that I like to do, and one of the things that does calm me down, to be honest with you, and it has really helped me feel more centered, is to just go and clear my clutter. So then, you know, that kind of like pile of stuff that you've been meaning to go through, and every time you walk past, you kind of ignore it, but it actually bothers you on your subconscious.
Right.
I've actually started attacking those piles, and don't ask me why. Previous to this, even when I've had spare time, I've had no desire to attack those piles. But for some reason, right now, I have suddenly got all this impetus and all this energy available to me to just go through them and throw out, because I feel a pandemic like this helps us to just get back to what really matters.
What really matters and what's really important.
What's really important. And I believe that on a physical level, if we hold on to clutter and disorganization in our homes, and by the way, I'm not a clutter specialist in any form or fashion, but I think that what we're doing is, it's almost like on a subconscious level, we're holding onto the clutter in our mind. And by doing something outside of ourselves to clear that clutter, you know, it may be that your garden is in it, or your yard, as you like to say in America, is.
I have a friend who goes and pulls weeds, so that makes her feel safe.
So
you know?
Go and cut it back, neaten it up, tidy up your house, repair things that you can repair, but really get into the habit of, what can I get rid of? What can I actually put in my the area where my rubbish and my waste goes, where it's ready to go to the dump when the dump gets reopened? You know, can I move it out of my house? This is my opportunity to not just clear myself internally, but clear myself externally. And the external clearing often has a side effect of clearing yourself internally and making space for you to be able to cope. Well,
it's you know, we're energetic beings, and so it's all energy, so it's all connected.
And so then, my last thing would be to suggest that you get really clear. This is a really great opportunity for you to really think about actually what your values are, what matters to you, what you care about, what the core components of life for you should be about, and where you need to put your energy. And one example of that, and something I often say, is that, you know, we're often meanest to the people who are closest to us because we think we can get away with it. Whereas my view right now is, why aren't you, surely we should be the kindest and treat the people who are closest to us and love us the most with our best possible behavior.
It's
and actually, it doesn't matter what anybody outside of your life thinks about you.
Yeah, it's a great time to reconnect with you and your family and what's important to you.
Yeah, and just you know, invest in your closest relationships. These people are the people who love you the most, and so treat them
awesome.
Treat them awesomely. You know, treat them with love, treat them with appreciation, tell them how amazing and great they are, and tell them how grateful and thankful you are for having them in your lives and letting them be your champions. If they aren't your champions yet, give them a chance.
I am grateful and thankful for having you in my life. And please tell whoever's watching this how they can get in touch with you. And I'll put it below the video wherever I post it, but tell them how to find you.
Well, I think the easiest thing to do, because I presume you're sharing this on Facebook or elsewhere.
Oh, I'm going to put it everywhere. It'll be on my YouTube channel, LinkedIn, Facebook. Just tell them your website and.
Okay. My website address is handsonbusiness.com, but there are little hyphens on either side of the on. So hands-on-business.com. And you can reach out to me there. Otherwise, find me on Facebook or LinkedIn under Helen Elizabeth Evans. I'm on YouTube too, but I don't do very much on YouTube. And, just the easiest thing to do is just message me via Facebook, and I can accept your message if you want to chat. And, I have a way to book in a call with me. And if you just kind of want to just chat, just book in a call with me.
Awesome.
At this time of day, sometimes we just need a person to just listen for a minute.
Exactly. So like I said, everybody, I will put all of her links below. I'll put the website, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of them, so you'll be able to find her. And Helen, thank you so much for sharing your love with everyone today.
I do. I have so much love for each and every single person. I believe that we are, each of us, infinitely brilliant. And we just need to find a way to express that in the world and become the shining light that we are each here to be.
Exactly. So everybody go out and have a fabulous day just because you can.
Yeah, brilliant. Sending you